If I told you to name me an anime, what anime would you give me? Dragon Ball? JoJo? Death Note? Maybe you're one of those people that say Pokemon or Sonic X first for some reason. Demon Slayer, MHA, Nichiju, Azumanga, Komi-san, or even that one Deer anime. So many possible answers to my question, there's no way I could go through them all. But a certain answer that I bet you didn't give me, or at least 99% of you wouldn't give me, is an early 2000s Adult Swim mess of multiple dubs, crude offensive humor, swears, psychedelic acid trips for visuals, nonsensical and borderline non-existent plot points, and cutaways so unrelated that they make Family Guy jealous. Just to give you a quick briefing before we begin, this is like if you took the Powerpuff Girls, took away all of the positive attributes of their characters, combined all the negative ones into a singular character, gave that character a lifetime supply of booze, and took away all of their restrictions. Hey, I'm MoonieMuses, and here with my friend Kiwi Animates, we're gonna talk about Super Milk-chan, her creator, the lead up to her conception, and why her show is the best, worst thing we've ever watched. But before this video starts, this video is sponsored by Red Bull.
Damn it! Has it started?
Oh, Milk, you haven't missed a thing. Red Bull for Kids commercial, that's it.
Sweet! Come on, turn the volume up, it's starting!
But before we can talk about this peak show, we first have to talk about the person responsible for creating this peak show. The man in question, Hideyuki Tanaka. No, not that one. That Hideyuki Tanaka is a Japanese voice actor who would go on to voice the likes of Jonathan Joestar or Captain Falcon and other characters in certain video games. And you might actually know who that is or who those characters are, so clearly this is the wrong one. You see, our Hideyuki Tanaka doesn't even have a Wikipedia page that's in English, only Japanese. Finding some of these images were difficult for me, like, especially as an American. And like, I don't want to drag out this point or anything, but seriously, I found like, 4 pictures that I could confirm was the Hideyuki Tanaka that I wanted? And this one in particular looks like it came off a webcam. It sucks, but I'll take what I can get, I guess. Anyway, this guy was born on July 5th, 1962, in the city of, Hamamatsu, in the Shizuoka Prefecture. I think I said that right. From there, he would graduate from the Tama Art University of Tokyo, specifically in the Department of Graphic Design. This is what he would go on to be known for, and a certain somebody, but we'll get to that in a bit. Because at the time, Tanaka worked for a TV broadcasting service known as NHK, or the Japanese Broadcasting Service. Yeah, I know, the Japanese Broadcasting Service doesn't really start with N, H, or K, so it wouldn't really work as an acronym, but that's only because we translated it over, and if we don't translate it over, it apparently does start with NHK. Though that really doesn't matter, I just wanted to point it out. Don't look at me like that, it's a weird translation thing. And you better get used to it, by the way. Trust me, translations, or I guess more accurately mistranslations, is going to be a big thing we come back to eventually. So, after a brief time of working with that network, he would be approached by a different one, Fuji TV this time, to extend a hand to help work on a children's variety show. At least, I think it is. I think this is what that is. Wait. Hang on. Is that the Mona Lisa? Rodney guy? Rodney Allen Greenblatt? You mean like that Rodney Allen Greenblatt from Parappa the Rapper? What? Yeah, this is Ugo Ruga, ladies and gentlemen. Or, I guess, depending who you ask, Ugo Luga, I think. Sometimes it's spelled like this, sometimes it's spelled both ways on the exact same page, sometimes it's spelled with 2 U's, which could be a misspelling, but if you spell it 3 ways, can anything be a misspelling at that point? Besides, that's how Google says that it's spelled. It spells it with 2 U's, which the autocorrect does not tell you to do. Heck, in this one singular image that I'm putting on screen right now, every single common way to spell this name is on the screen. All of them at the same time. And all of them are technically correct. But, back to the man in question. As far as I can tell, Tanaka worked on a lot of the CG animated segments of this show, which I'll be showing on screen right now. Keep in mind, however, this is CG animation back in 1992, and to put that into perspective, Toy Story came out 3 years later in 1995. So at around the time that Uga Ruga was coming out, Woody and Buzz looked like this.
Well, you know Andy loves toys that can fly.
Really? Well then, to infinity and beyond!
You know, Andy loves toys that he can find.
So I guess an argument could be made that this was new territory, especially in the case of this show, since it was actually done mostly in real time. The show featured hybrid live-action segments with the animation, where our two children hosts, Ugo and Ruga, wow, what amazing names, would interact with the cartoon characters. There was also a time where you could call in while the show was airing and hear yourself on the TV interacting with the cartoon characters. If I can find footage of it, I'll put it on the screen, but I'm sure it exists. It's just the fact that it's probably listed somewhere in Japanese, and the few videos about this that are in English are less than helpful. Tanaka would go on to accomplish other things aside from this show, of course. For example, he would create his own studio, Frame Graphics, in 1997, a multimedia Tokyo-based company which specialized in, well, graphic design, it's kind of in the name. He has a really unique and identifiable art style at a glance, which can really stick out of a crowd if you've seen it enough times. I know I have. For example, most of the time, most of his art consists of really thick line art, with the thinner lines being reserved for more detailed stuff like the face or whatever. His colors are usually very flat with no depth or shading, with the exception of if he's doing a 3D render, and most of his art seems to consist of characters with really large, oversized heads and proportionally small bodies, though there are exceptions to this rule, such as when he did the art direction for 1999's Bust-A-Groove. He also worked on Bust-A-Groove 2, as well as 2001's, well, Dance Summit 2001 Bust-A-Move. Beyond these endeavors, he also helped out with the clothing company Super Lovers, which is apparently run by his brother, Yasuhara Tanaka. Fortunately, he seems to be just as difficult to Google as his sibling, because unlike Hideyuki, where if I Google his name with a work he's attached to, like Uga Ugaruga, Bust-A-Groove, or Milk-chan, his picture pops up, the same cannot be said for Yasuhara, unless he happens to be one of these many anime characters appearing within the search. But it's fine, that's not the Tanaka we want to talk about today anyway. Back to Hideyuki. In around 1998, so around the time he would be working on the Bust-A-Groove series, he also worked on an anime television series of shorts. Yep, we're here. We've gone through enough prerequisite. Let's talk about Hideyuki Tanaka's big thing. You could argue it was his magnum opus, if you will. Arguably the face of his company, Super Milk-chan.
Woo! We can't miss that one.
You think they know something we don't?
Don't you feel a little guilty watching TV shows about people less fortunate than you?
What are you talking about? That's not why I watch it.
Whatever, I still think you watch the show because you like to look down on people.
I do not.
I'm just teasing. Now shut up and let's watch your show.
The original Super Milk-chan is a 13-episode-long comedy miniseries produced by Frame Graphics and aired on Fuji TV Network from June 18th to September 24th of 1998. Unlike its eventual successor, it featured hand-drawn cell animation as opposed to Flash and Flash rigs, which led to darker colors and thinner line art from what the character would become known for and associated with, which I mentioned earlier. It might also be a bit smoother, but that might be subjective.
Despite Super being a lot shorter in terms of literal episode length, and them clearly still finding their footing when it comes to certain aspects of it, it's still surprising to look at, because what they did have was shockingly consistent and would remain consistent even in the future continuation. For example, its three most important characters, Milk-chan, Tetsuko, and the President, are basically nailed down in terms of their characterizations and interactions. In fact, I dare to say they're more or less identical between both here and the follow-up, kind of. But we'll get to that. In both Japanese iterations of both shows, Milk-chan is generally quiet but sarcastic, with dry humor. Tetsuko is an airhead and a major pushover, and the President is one of the most pathetic characters that I've ever seen in fiction, or any media for that matter. The amount of competence somebody has to be continually verbally owned by a genuine infant is astonishing. Astonishingly minimal, that is.
The general formula of each episode is also nearly identical as well, though it's missing future additions that we'll touch on in a bit, though that should be expected. In this version of the show's case, it's very simple. Each episode starts out with Milk-chan and Tetsuko doing basically anything actually. Either eating rice cakes, sitting around, watching TV, and then, basically anything. And then, sometime later in the episode, after doing that for a while, Milk gets a call from this blobfish of a president.
During the call, the president would give Milk-chan an important mission or something. It's almost never important, by the way, though the importance can range from actual crimes like drug deals to stuff Girl Scouts could probably take care of like birds. Milk and Co go out to do whatever the heck they are told to, and almost always fail horribly.
And that's basically how it goes. Though interestingly, there are actually a few exceptions when this formula is broken. Think of it like the new Phineas and Ferb, where they're constantly poking fun at your expectations of how an episode of the show is supposed to go. Except unlike Phineas and Ferb, it's way worse, because the original formula isn't that good anyway. In these scenarios, the president typically doesn't appear at all, so therefore a mission is never given, so the entertainment value of the episode comes from whatever Milk-chan is doing.
Overall, these Milk-chan shorts must have performed very popularly in Japan because, as previously mentioned, it would gain a continuation only a year later.
Hey, this is Super Milk-chan here. This wouldn't be Bruce Lee by any chance, would it?
It's me, Milk. Hello? Milk-chan, did you hang up on me again?
Its follow-up series was called Oh Super Milk-chan, which aired about a year later from January 27th to April 13th of the year 2000, which effectively served as a season 2. But instead of Fuji TV, it apparently aired on a different network called Space Shower TV. Not that it mattered though. In this version of the show, they finally adopted Flash animation instead of cell, completing the show's recognizable and iconic look. At least, if you're not in America anyway. On top of this, the episode runtime was also to a whopping 24-minute max for each of its 13 episodes, as opposed to the previous 5, which is a very big change. Nowhere close at all.
Now, considering that giant change, you'd assume that the showrunners would go out of their way to try and reinvent the show, or change the way that it works. Because they have like 5 times the length to work with. But no, actually, it's basically the same, with a few additions anyway. For example, they introduced a new character to this amazing, groundbreaking episode structure. His name is Landlord, and he looks like a sentient radish. And yes, his name is in fact the Landlord. Or at least it's the only name he's ever referred to. I don't think Milk-chan ever actually name drops him, like ever, only ever referring to him as him. The Landlord serves basically zero narrative purpose to this story, though I guess story isn't the right word for talking about this show. It has no story, and he still somehow manages to be equally useless, only ever getting bullied by this child.
Milk-chan, open this door! You open up this instant!
Shit! Is he back?
Milk! Pay him!
You shut up!
Open up! Little thief! You hear me? I'm out of Prozac today, so don't push me!
You still haven't paid the rent?
I won't do it! Why should you have to pay something when you can get it for free? Shut up, loser.
Aside from being an absolute Giga Chad, he's absolute peak Mooney, and I don't appreciate you dissing the GOAT like that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, hey, look at this guy going in the credits. There's not a single thought in the head of his right now. Anyway, after bullying the Landlord is usually when they get the call from the president. He's still a complete pushover and completely empathetic in the show and has not changed a bit. So the question of how he got re-elected possibly is completely beyond me.
Hi! Super Milk-chan here. And you are?
It's me again, Milk-chan.
Ah, Mr. President.
Yes, you're correct. I am definitely your Wait a minute. That little bottle-sucking just made an ass of me. She can't get away with that.
What? I know who you are and what you want to say. So, say it.
Listen to me, you incorrigible little smartass.
Oh, calm down, will ya? I was just kidding.
That's just it. I'm your president, Milk.
Oh, Mr. President.
I am. Forever if I can abolish term limitation.
You beast.
He fired his country's missile at his own country once, by the way. Just wanted to mention that. Kinda notable. He seems super trigger happy when it comes to those things. Incredible president.
Another addition that was made to this version of the show is the character of Dr. Eyepatch, being apparently the head scientist of a company called King's Idea Lab, which is where Tetsuko came from. And unlike the Landlord, he's actually relatively useful from episode to episode, as he often provides Milk & Co. with some sort of insane gadget to aid them in whatever mission was given to them by the president that day. Like for example, my personal favorite, the Rice Cake Maker number 3.
And what mission did that help with?
Nothing. Its entire purpose is to make rice cakes.
Amazing. Meanwhile, during these 2 shows, Milk-chan was doing well enough to be able to get merchandise, and a lot of it to boot. There were plushies, keychains, a set of finger puppets at one point, and of course, lots and lots of figurines. I want one.
This was likely due to the fact that Super Milk-chan and her show, both of them, were built very heavily on cultural references within the zeitgeist of its home of origin, Japan. Even just watching a singular episode of the Japanese dub with captions, and you can almost immediately tell that something is off here. So much text on the screen.
The reason for this is because what we're looking at are contextual anecdotes, little blurbs that explain the context of a joke or gag that's playing out on the scene. And as you can see, there are a lot of them. Even as soon as the original Japanese intro and outro for this show do these appear, since it makes use of parodies of other anime at the time, as well as other Japanese things that don't make sense without any context. And it only gets more confusing as it goes on and more jokes stack up, which really makes you wonder why they thought it was a good idea to directly translate such a context-sensitive comedy made for Japan and give it to the US with little to no changes. Well, sorta. This is AD Vision Films, known more simply as just ADV Films. Formerly an anime multimedia company, before its collapse and liquidation in 2009. Formerly an anime multimedia company before its collapse and liquidation in 2009. Back in the day, they used to specialize in the localization of anime, with the AD within their name actually standing for just that, anime dubbing. With that in mind, they have an incredibly large collection of localized anime under their belt. Some of which are infamous for being quite horrible. From Hello Kitty to Evangelion, and even Azumanga, which Mooney mentioned earlier, these guys got their hands on all sorts of properties until 2007, with one of the most infamous of their dubs being the anime Ghost Stories from 2002, which is often credited as one of the worst English dubs of an anime ever created.
Now, telemarketers. Milk Tin here. That never gets old.
Would you look at that? Funny.
ADV Films was in charge of localizing Super Milk-chan and Oh Super Milk-chan for the American market in 2004, where it would air on Adult Swim. Interestingly, it seemed to air in the reverse order that it did in Japan, where Adult Swim got Oh Super first on November 7th, while the original 1998 series came a week later. But that's not what makes Milk-chan's localization situation so interesting. What makes it interesting is that they had to do it 2 times, a direct translated version and an Americanized version. The original version is basically just them taking the original script, putting it into Google Translate, and then hit enter. It's actually really bad, because as we discussed, or as Queevy discussed, this is a very context-sensitive anime.
But they still chose to do a direct translation anyway. This means that we had a show that still pivoted to the Japanese market while being pushed to an entirely different one, which is not good, especially since this would be the version that would end up running on Adult Swim for some reason. As you can imagine, that doesn't exactly mix, since doing this actually ended up changing the show in its entirety. Now the original's references and parodies basically become non-existent, since nobody gets the punchline. Instead, all potential humor or entertainment value comes from the complete absurdity of the episode plots, as well as the jokes that don't make sense anymore. But this effectively changes how you watch it altogether. As if all this wasn't enough, the dub situation doesn't end here.
This is the Americanized dub. The Americanized dub of Super Milk-chan is essentially a complete overhaul of every single line of dialogue and episode of the show, meant to better cater to the actual American audiences they will be showing this to, which if you ask me, you should have done from the start. You're an idiot. Changes brought rewrites, and rewrites brought changes to characters and character dynamics. Most notably, Milk-chan and Tetsuko.
It's puffing up!
It got pounded all night long, so I'm sure it'll puff up a lot. A whole lot.
Hey, Tetsuko, it's puffing up a lot. Look, Tetsuko, it's starting to puff up. Wow.
It's been pounded longer and harder than that girl in that movie I watched the other night. I mean, oh yeah, look at it go!
Tetsuko, I think you failed to realize the reality of this situation.
Wow, this is amazing! It's a world record!
You dumbass! I don't care. It's too puffed up. Too puffed up.
It's floating! It's floating! It's floating! It's a Mr. Balloon!
At this rate, the precious rice cake...
You're right, if this keeps up, we'll be in Guinness for the world's biggest rice cake!
You dumbass! No, you titanium nitwit! It's puffing up too much!
Oh, Mel Curry, you gotta do something. Bring it down, don't let it float away. I can't make another one of those things.
Oh, you think it's always about you? I'm the one who's starving!
Milk-chan went from a quiet yet sarcastic, witty, rude, and disrespectful little kid to that same thing, but instead the most loud character in the entire show. She screams and yells all the time.
Hey, I ain't letting you escape! Hanagi, go! Damn it. No way. No fucking way. Go, Hanagi! Fat!
Both versions of Milk-chan were done by the same actress, Hilary Hack. In case you're interested, she also played Patty Lowell in the 2007 Devil May Cry the animated series, at least in the English version anyway. Although if you ask me, the most important thing and most notable role she's had is Cavity A from Hello Kitty and Friends. Tetsuko, on the other hand, is as inconsistent as me. In the straightly translated dub, she has a very light, feminine, whimsical sounding voice, being overly high-pitched and pretty close to what she sounded like in the original Japanese release. Meanwhile, in the Americanized dub version, she sounds like the cousin of Garcello, very raspy, ear-grating, and hard to listen to, which granted does fit her new character style, where she's very upfront, very brash, and incredibly argumentative. The other characters appear to remain exactly the same though, so, I mean, to be fair, the president is already the most stupid person I've ever seen in my entire life, so I don't know how you can make him any more stupid, so it's probably good that he wasn't changed. Obviously, during the making of this video, we had to watch this show. I was in charge of watching all of the Americanized dub, while Queevy was in charge of watching the directly translated dub. Now you might be wondering how I'm watching the Americanized dub if that's not what ended up on television. This is because it was included as part of the Super Milk Milk Chan Show 100% Whole DVD. And yes, that is what it's called. I wonder if the person who made this got hired at Nintendo to make the new Nintendo 3DS XL. And in case you're wondering, no, the other volumes of the DVD did not have much better names. But the name isn't even the biggest oddity here. It's the fact that they decided to smash every single episode together, and not only that, but interlace it with really bizarre IRL skits. This happens in the main episodes too, where they cut away from the action, or quote-unquote action, to give you a documentary about sauteed onions or something. What is this? What's happening? Why are you doing this? Don't cut away to something completely unrelated. That's just stupid.
Hello, Super Milk Chan here. And you are...
That does it! I don't care if you're the only superhero I've got. You've obviously forgotten who you're messing with, Super Mook. And that I alone have my finger on the button of the punishment missile.
a missile? Fire away, fatty. You couldn't hit the broadside of your ass.
You leave my ass out of this.
I'd like to, but it's just too goddamn huge.
If you came up to me and told me that you wanted to watch this show, well, first off, I'd tell you to reconsider because this show has really offensive language, really crass humor, and is super duper offensive by today's standards, and you really shouldn't watch it if you get triggered easily or don't like that kind of stuff.
Looks like our mission today is completed, you guys. Anybody up for strip poker? Who's in for scoring some acid? Let's go hire some hookers. Yay!
But if you are fine with that kind of stuff, or if I just can't convince you, then here's my recommendation. In my opinion, the Americanized dub is the best. It's written for English speakers in mind, so it's the easiest to follow with the best natural sounding dialogue in an already confusing show. It's also technically more crass though, being a lot more offensive a lot more of the time. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that case. Do you want the better sounding English and dialogue overall, but have more offensive stuff, or less offensive stuff, but it's a lot harder to understand what's going on? Frankly, the show itself is a mess, so me calling the Americanized dub good isn't necessarily a very high bar. However, I will say that in my opinion, this show is at its absolute best when you're watching the 1998 series, Super Milk Chan Vintage, and not O Super. This is because due to O Super being a lot longer, it's a lot more padded out and a lot slower paced than the already slow 1998 version, because at least for the original, it's done and dusted relatively quickly and can go by pretty rapid fire. With O Super, you're not so lucky, and it'll lose its luster and charm way faster. There's also some other stuff too, like the Super Milk Chan Flash Shorts, Milk's IT Revolution, which appears to have released some time after the show had concluded, but this one doesn't have an Americanized dub, so you're gonna have to make do with captions. It's lower budget than what we're used to at this point, but it's not like Super Milk Chan was very high budget to begin with anyway, and hey, looks better than One Punch Man Season 3. Every iteration of Milk Chan does actually, so that's gotta count for something, right? Milk Chan can solo Saitama confirmed? Get on Milk Chan's level, Saitama, you dumbass.
You spoiled, slobbering, milk-sipping little brat!
God, please do not let me turn into this kind of loser when I get older. Please!
Why you? Why Nero to be
Please!
a punishment?
I wanna get off the